there's some compliments and appreciation for the U.S. government. They do take care of the disadvantaged in the country. They do give out food stamps for qualified people. And they do have shelters, and they do have social services. I myself I've had a therapist for almost a year now, which I'm really thankful for. The government, I guess, does a lot. They also have police on payroll to keep the rule of law in order, keep people safe, keep things lubricated and smoothly running. Just like gangs don't get a foothold or whatever. There's also investigative parts of the government that keeps corruption minimized. We also live in a democratic system, so the people get to vote on different things, both at the local and at the national level. If anyone doesn't like stuff that happens within the government, there can be appeals and petitions to reverse orders, reverse rulings and decisions, so that the country most accurately represents who the people are. And that could be a good or a bad thing, depending on your view. That how the country is a representation of its people. At least in word, it does represent and value things like equality, justice, truth, transparency. It doesn't always happen, but at least those are the values that they espouse. And so there is at least somewhat of a commitment to those values, as well as happiness itself. It's right in the Bill of Rights, the Constitution. That everyone can pursue happiness, etc., etc. The government makes parks and national reserves for nature conservation, for the enjoyment of the people, as well as the well-being of plants, animals, and nature itself, and the world as a whole. The government does have some good policies. It lets people be heard in court and face their accusers, and to not have the right to not incriminate themselves, and the right to attorneys, state-funded even in criminal situations. It's a right. There is rule of law, and so if you follow the laws, you can't get in trouble, and if someone tries to get you in trouble, you can argue in court and get out of trouble. Having an equal and fair system based on truth is something that, push comes to shove, gets enforced. Because you can't stand in a courtroom and say the sky is purple when the sky is blue and let it pass. The truth is going to come out, and good will be done, generally. And then if it's not, then appeals can happen, and then it can get done right. Because there is a sort of checks and balance, which is a healthy and good thing. Just like in the human body, there's a rational part that thinks things out and makes good decisions based on information, but there's also the unconscious nervous system, which reacts to keep us safe and to feel other people's energy and like intuition beyond just the rational, which also appears is another lens to look at truth through, is the energy or vibe that people give off, which gives us information before any words come out. Like, you don't have to wait till you hear this is a stick up. If you can feel someone has evil energy, you don't need to wait for them to say this is a stick up to know that something's evil about them. Like, you can just suss things out, essentially. I forget how that was connected to the U.S. government. I know the human body was a metaphor. I don't remember how. What else is good? At least on the appearance, the government values education. It's mandatory and required for all kids up to a certain age. I would say a lot of the stuff they teach is not important to life. I mean, learning about how many people have killed each other throughout the millennia seems like not a great thing to teach. Just like having violent video games or violent television. You should minimize negativity and maximize positivity in all aspects of life. And learning about every person who died throughout human history does not seem like a very positive thing to focus on, just an opinion. But they do educate, and there is some value in the school system. Kids get to socialize and learn basic language and some science, how the physical world works, and how to count or subtract or multiply and stuff like that, which has some value, not huge. Honestly, anything so trivial as adding or subtracting, you'd probably learn naturally in the world. You don't need 3 years to learn basic math, which is, what about social skills and conflict resolution and mediation and learning common ground and social skills and how to create things that benefit yourself and others and stuff like that. But a little tangential. I'm sure things are going in a better direction. The school system was sort of built back in the Depression era times, Industrial Revolution, when everyone worked in a factory, and that's not really relevant anymore. Sit down and shut up type things. Now it's all about relationships and networking and stuff like that, or whatever. But just in general, just optimizing education, tangential anyway. The government values education. That's a positive, and it'll just get better and better as time goes on. The government also has good relationships with many countries in the world, which is a positive thing, especially Europe. There has been some help with, evil in the Middle East, dealing with some of that dictatorship, rule by guerrilla warlords, dealing with that evil. Just trading with people all over the world. Probably the best relationships are with Europe, just because America is like what it was a European colony, right? And our participation in, and perhaps we may have created it, the United Nations, which is a huge achievement for our country. Just global dialogue and talking things out, so we don't have to inefficiently go to war when simple words could solve problems. It's just the lowest human nature, just to fight over things rather than utopically discussing and finding common ground for mutual benefit on all sides. That's one of perhaps the proudest things I feel about the government, is the creation of, or at least our major participation in the UN. We may have drafted it. I'm not sure. I know it was signed in New York, or I think it was New York or California. I don't remember where. But I know we had a major role, and we did have a huge influence in stopping the evil that preceded it, i.e., Hitler's Nazi Germany, which prompted us to do that. I mean, the government, just like the whole world, is leaning in a more positive direction. It is becoming more environmentally conscious. Things are becoming more green all the time. There's the sustainable development goals, leading our country as well as others towards ending poverty, hunger, sickness, environmental degradation, fixing the worst problems in the planet, which is a hugely good, noble, positive thing. America is a pretty decent country in the global landscape. It's either like 48 or 24 on the global happiness scale. I can't remember. It's not number one, but it is on the top. It is on the top part of the list out of like 220 countries. It's either like in the 40s or the 20s or something like that. Last time I checked. What else? I mean, the travesties with the Indians. I mean, the government did give them back. I mean, it was greedy and wrong. They gave them land, and they gave them casinos, which made them billions of dollars. Still doesn't make up for the fact, all the crime, but they did. It might seem trite, but it was a different generation, and they did take steps to right it, which is not justification at all. Again, I think the government likes and wants to be perfect. It has very good ideals. It doesn't espouse, like evil outright as its values. There, like most things, there is some corruption, but it does have good values and good ideals, and it does try to live up to them as best as it can, while being in a real world with real issues, and sometimes it can get sloppy, just like in an individual human's life. You or me, living values can sometimes get sloppy, and like muddy water, mixed up, slushy, whatever. But it does have good values at its core: equality, diversity, fairness, truth, justice, the valuing of happiness, etc. Yeah, these are all good things. And so what would my final thoughts be about our government? It's doing its best, and it does have good values, and it tries to live up to them just like everyone does, as best it can in a real world. And it has checks and balances for fairness and for goodness to prevail. I mean, other countries might look down or laugh on our, 4-year, 6-year terms, depending on governor or senator or president, whatever. But it keeps things liquid and smooth. If there are drawbacks, but I think it's harder to have long-term goals when things are switching all the time. But it has its positives too. Has good relationships abroad. It cares about kids' education, which could be better. It does have a system of level-headedness through the court systems where people can rationally talk about things, and police to sort of lubricate society, make things run smoothly, prevent bad things from cropping up, and it puts away bad people into segregation, which also is good for society as a whole. It has many good things, and I'm thankful for the government and all it does, so thank you.